next speaker is Gaye Ganter. Gaye is an original Dallasite. She's been in Dallas her whole life. She's married with 2 children, and she's worked at Starbucks for the last 16 years. She enjoys reading and Bible doodling. Please help me welcome Gaye Ganter.
The captain of a ship was sailing on a dark, pitch-black night. The captain suddenly noticed a bright light directly in front of him, and he knew his ship was on a collision course with the light. He rushed to the radio and sent an urgent message demanding that the vessel change its course 10 degrees east. A few seconds later, he received a message in return. The message said, "Cannot do it. Change your course 10 degrees west." The captain got angry. He sent another cryptic message. "I'm a Navy captain. I demand you change your course." He received a message back a few seconds later. It said, "I'm a seaman, 2nd class. Cannot do it. Change your course." The captain was now furious. He sent one final message. It said, "I'm a battleship, and I'm not changing my course." He got a curt message in return. It said, "I'm a lighthouse. It's your choice, sir." Whenever I hear this story, it reminds me of our eternity, heaven or hell, and we all have a choice. I was just like that battleship captain, doing it my way, heading straight to hell, totally unaware. When I was born, my parents were 43 years old. They were old. I had 2 older brothers, and we were all exactly 12 years apart. I was born on my oldest brother's 24th birthday. But I was an accident, but I was the bonus baby, as they referred to me, a girl. My oldest brother was married with a family, and my next brother was 12 years old when I was born. That's a tough age. I can imagine he lost the limelight. I was now in the spotlight. My brother turned to drugs to satisfy his needs. He was very violent. He would come home raging at my parents, kicking down walls and doors. I was scared to death of him, and I felt like he was killing my parents, and I knew I had to be perfect for them. When I was in the 2nd grade, both my brothers had moved out of the house. My parents placed me in a private Christian school. My parents believed in God and wanted the same for me. So I learned a lot about Jesus at home and at school, and I became a Christian. In the 6th grade, we moved across town, and I went into the public school system. I had a great life. My grandmother lived with us, and I had her undivided attention. I was Daddy's girl, and my mom was my strength. But at age 15, a guy came to my school. He was very good looking, but he was a bad boy, and I knew it. I wanted his attention. I never knew how old he was, but I knew he was way older than I was. He finally asked me out. I was a cheerleader at the time, and it was basketball season, and I cheered at a game, and he met me afterwards. I got in his car, and we drove straight to the liquor store, and I drank. I remember going to his apartment, and then I remember waking up in the ER. I never recovered any memories from that night. I found out I made it home from the date. I got in bed with my grandmother, and she asked, "How was your date?" When I didn't answer, she turned on the light. My eyes were rolled up in the back of my head, and they rushed me to the ER. I later discovered from evidence from my clothes that he had raped me. We now call this date rape. But I kept thinking, it's all my fault. I should have been in control. It's not his fault. My mom told me I could never see him again. And that incident was never spoken about since. A week later, I was called to the office at school and told to call my mom. She said I needed to go straight to the hospital. My blood work from the night revealed very high blood sugars, but the hospital had lost the report. So I went to the hospital and in fact was diagnosed with juvenile diabetes or type 1 diabetes. It took a while to realize this, but that was a blessing in disguise. Had I not been diagnosed, I would have ended up in ketoacidosis, a coma, and possibly died. I learned the hard way, love cannot be forced. I straightened up my act on the outside, but grew further away from God as I grew up. But I learned a Bible story as a little girl from Matthew 18. It says, "If a man owns 100 sheep and one of them wanders away, will he not leave the 99 on the hills to go and look for the one who wandered off? And if he finds it, I tell you the truth, he is happier about that one sheep than the 99 that did not wander off. In the same way, your Father in heaven is not willing that any one of these little ones should be lost." Jesus is our shepherd, and we are his sheep. He is constantly looking for us. But God does give us a choice to choose him. He will not force us. So like a lost sheep, I wandered off. Oh, I could see the flock, but I got distracted by life and my own selfish concerns. I knew Jesus, but I wanted to do things my way. And as Dr. Phil would say, how's that working for you?
Yeah.
Are there any dog lovers here? I want to tell you a story about Bear and how God used our dog, a Bible study, and my mom to bring me back to him. My husband and I were taking a weekend getaway with friends. We had 3 dogs at the time, and 2 of my dogs were going to be watched by my children at our house, but my husband insisted that Bear go stay at his parents' house. So on Friday afternoon, I took her over to Grandma's, and I could tell she felt uneasy, but we were going on a vacation. So we went with our friends in their car 2 hours away. Sunday morning, my husband and I were sitting around this wraparound porch, drinking coffee, looking at the beautiful scenery all around us. And all of a sudden I said, "You know, there's one thing missing here." He said, "What?" I said, "The dogs." At that very moment, his cell phone rang. It was 7 o'clock on a Sunday morning. And that can't be good news. Bear was missing, his dad told him. 10 adults had spent all day the day before looking for Bear. I wanted to go home immediately, but we didn't have our car. So the next hours were gut-wrenching for me and my husband. I finally asked our friends, could we please go home? We had to find Bear. We went straight to the place that she was last seen and scoured the streets calling her name until it was dark. The next days, I made signs and posters with my name and cell phone number on them. I called and visited dog shelters, vet offices, animal hospitals in 7+ cities. I had constant communication with all the animal control facilities in the area. I used Facebook and Craigslist. I emailed. I even hired a pet detective who actually got heat exhaustion and didn't accomplish his mission. But that's a whole nother story. When we weren't at work, we were desperately searching for Bear. About a weekend, it occurred to me, and I asked my husband, how are we going to know when to stop looking? And at that moment, I got the aha. This must be how God feels when we wander away from him. He loves us so much, and he's got the signs out. He's imploring help from pet detectives, i.e. preachers, evangelists. He uses the TV and the radio and our own friends. There are messages all around us, but like Bear, we are unaware of all the ways God is using us to bring us to him. When I was in my 30s, I attended a Bible study. One of the questions was, who is your hero? And I answered, my grandmother, my dad, and my mom. I adored these 3 people. They were my foundation. Then I turned the page, and the Bible study asked, how about God as your hero? I never thought about that. It never entered my mind. When I was 20, my grandmother died. When I was 30, my dad died. And at 40, my mom fell and broke her hip. She had surgery, which according to the doctor went well. But days went by and she wasn't waking up from the anesthesia. I was confused why this was happening. So I went by myself to the hospital chapel. I knelt down at the kneeler and I grabbed a Bible. And I said, God, I don't understand what's happening right now. I opened the Bible, and my eyes looked directly at John 14:2. I am going to prepare a place for you. So I read that passage that encompassed that verse. Do not let your hearts be troubled. Trust in God. Trust also in me. In my Father's house are many rooms. If it were not so, I would have told you. I'm going to prepare a place for you. I will come back and take you to be with me, so that you may be where I am. You know the way to the place where I am going. I had peace. I went back upstairs. I told my mom goodbye and that I would be fine. She took her final breath. I couldn't see Jesus in that moment, but I saw Jesus. I felt like God reached down his hand and whispered in my ear, now let me be your hero. Let me guide you. God was getting my attention. Are you wondering what happened to Bear?
Yes.
Bear was out there wandering, trying to do things her way, when she finally realized she needed help. What started out as an adventure for her, I am quite sure, ended up a quest to save her life. She was hot, tired, thirsty, hungry, and flat worn out. She approached the house and asked for help. It was 2 weeks and 2 days later, 16 dog days of summer, when my phone rang and someone said, I think I found your dog. My grandmother and I used to read a special poetry book as I was growing up, and I never realized the impact of this poem until now. Poor little black sheep that strayed away was lost in the wind and the rain. And the shepherd, he'd say, oh, hireling, go find my sheep again. And the hireling frowned, oh, shepherd, that sheep is black and bad. But the shepherd, he'd smile like that little black sheep was the only lamb he had. And he'd say, hireling, hasten, for the wind and the rain is cold. And that little black sheep is lonesome out there so far from the fold. And the hireling frowned, oh, shepherd, that sheep is old and gray. The shepherd, he'd smile like that little black sheep was fair as the break of day. And he'd say, oh, hireling, hasten, for here is the 99, but they're so far from the sheepfold. It's that little black sheep of mine. And the hireling frowned, oh, shepherd, the rest of the sheep are here. But the shepherd, he smiled, and that little black sheep, he held it most dear. And the shepherd went out in the darkness, where the wind was cold and bleak. And that little black sheep, he found it. And he held it against his cheek. And the hireling frowned, oh, shepherd, don't bring that sheep to me. But the shepherd, he smiled, and he held it close. And that little black sheep is me.
That's cute.
When I was, we'll start over. Now I'm plugged in. I love church. I love Bible studies and learning about God. I love God. I make a concerted effort to read the Bible every day, to talk to God each day, and now we are growing our relationship. Are you lost? Are you ready to be found? Jesus has made it so simple, but it's your choice. He came to the earth, he died, he was buried, and he rose again. And he is coming back for his sheep so that we can spend eternity in heaven with him. All you have to do is accept his free gift of a new life. Admit you've messed up, you've been a rebel, and you've hurt God with your actions. Ask him for forgiveness and then accept his forgiveness. Tell him you want him